If you're seeing this video, you are probably lying to yourself and you don't even know it. You and I now live more comfortable than ever in human history, but still, how come we feel so stressed, anxious most of the time? I don't know about you, but I don't think that's how life is supposed to be. I used to be lying to myself about a lot of things in my life, and this book right here really changed me. Live No Lies by John Marcoma helped me realize all of the lies I was brought up to believe, intrusive thoughts, how to recognize lies, find truth, and the battle of good and evil that is happening right now, right here, inside your mind and heart. Let's get into it. Orson Welles is one of the most unique icons of film history, but you may not know that he built his career on one big, successful lie. At the start of World War II, people actually believed that the world was being taken over by aliens from outer space. And it was all because of a radio program by Orson Welles. The then 23-year-old tried to get a break into the entertainment and art industry by creating a radio program that we would nowadays call a mockumentary. And if you know, like a TV show like The Office, it's basically creating a fictional story but showing it like a documentary. And this is what Orson Welles did with the science fiction classic War of the Worlds. He adapted a story about alien invasion through fake monologues and news reports like it was really happening in real life. People went crazy because they trusted in the radio and they had no real way to disprove what was being said. Eventually, truth got out that it was a lie, and Orson Welles got his big break and 3 years later directed a film that changed filmmaking forever. This is such a great real-life story about the power of lies, and you might be thinking, okay, this couldn't be happening today. Nowadays we have the internet and we can disprove false information. This story shows us exactly what is happening right now in new, sophisticated and hidden ways you're not even aware of. My fiance originally got me this book, and this was one of the first books that really brought me into Christianity and made me give my life to Christ. And today I will be breaking down the most important lessons of Live No Lies and combine them with some of my own story. Why do we live so comfortably but so stressed out and confused at the same time? John Marcoma writes that it all comes down to this. We believe deceptive ideas that play into disordered desires that are normalized in a sinful society. He breaks down that we are fighting three enemies at the same time: the devil, the flesh, and the world. Now, how are these three enemies present in your life at this very moment? In the story of the Tower of Babel, a nation wanted to build a tower that got them up as high as heaven. But God switched it up by giving them different languages so that they no longer understood each other, leaving the project unfinished. Not because they had different goals, but because they couldn't connect with each other. The internet has somewhat become a Babylon similar to this story. Content that will improve your life is one click away from content that will destroy your life. And in order to make sense of all this chaos, we put things in order by what we believe and what we find valuable. This is where it gets dangerous. One of my favorite films of all time is Inception by Christopher Nolan. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a professional thief who steals information by infiltrating the subconsciousness of other people while they are asleep. And in the film he gets the biggest, most important job of his life, where he needs to implant a specific idea in another person's mind. The story shows us how a single idea that isn't even our own can completely change and transform you. Of course, this is a big blockbuster science fiction film, but it is much closer to real life than you think. Most of what you're thinking aren't even your own thoughts. If you think about a YouTube video, a song, a film, a book, you're thinking about someone else's ideas. And if you use social media, you are seeing hundreds of images a minute. This is what actively fuels your intrusive thoughts. I mean, there's nothing as small and as powerful at the same time as a thought. And the phone I wrote this script on, and the camera that's filming me right now, the software I'm going to use later on to edit, and the device you are watching this video on right now, it all started with thoughts and ideas. Each of us owns such a powerful brain, and we don't take care of it enough. And that's exactly how it's under attack by evil without us realizing it. Live No Lies says that all good lies have some truth in them. This is about lies that shape your whole worldview and how evil actually can operate freely within these kinds of lies. Have you ever felt bad about doing something wrong? Now, what is that feeling you feel, that guilt, that shame? I believe that we all share an underlying moral system that we weren't taught by society, culture, or politics, but that has been created and put into our DNA by God. And I just see the Bible as a user's manual that explains to us why we have certain moral beliefs, what they are, and how we can live in accordance to them. And the reality is, everything we do, think or say is either on God's side or on the side of the devil. I thought this was extreme before I became a Christian, but hear me out. I used to believe that everything we do mostly falls into a gray area or middle ground where truth is a matter of perception. And it's obvious why. This is what we're being taught and told. We're living in a world where the mainstream says that God doesn't exist. So there's no such thing as something universally good you can do, because what is good is entirely subjective. And in addition to that, in recent times we are being told that there is no devil. So there is also no such thing as doing something wrong, because what is wrong, what is evil is entirely subjective. Let's just decide what is the most easy and comfortable thing to do. Let's let everybody do what they want. It's ultimate freedom. No matter what they want to do, they can do it. I'm sure that nobody would really agree that that's how a society can and should be working. So we have to base our belief system in a truth that we all share. Now, what is truth? I used to be a huge fan of rap music, and rap music is basically just a rapper speaking his truth. Now, rappers are mostly people that come from difficult backgrounds, like from the hood, that have suffered and have thus a lot of personal problems and also a unique perspective that they can bring into their art. And rap music is basically about your issues, but you create a superhero, supervillain character that uses things like money, power, violence, sex, substance abuse, and things like that to deal with your issues. Before a rapper is successful, this is the character he creates, this is how he brands himself. And when he becomes successful, suddenly people don't perceive him as the person with issues that he really is, but as the superhero villain character he created for himself. So they expect him to live out the lies he promotes. And this is how most rappers end up living in a made-up reality they can't really escape. Koma has a specific definition of what truth is. He says that truth is everything that corresponds with reality. He explains the concept of mental maps, and it's basically how Google Maps will bring you to a certain destination, and no matter what kind of perspective you have, the path will always be the same to that destination. The same way a rocket gets launched into space by physics, and these physics don't change. So we can assume that we as humans work the same way, because subjectivity doesn't change reality. There is a time and place for innovation, but I think that when it comes to the human experience, our personal struggles, like humans have struggled with the same thing ever since the beginning of time. So why not turn to the Bible, which is truth that has been transported through thousands of years and contains time-tested lessons about morality, the human experience, and how we should be living as humans. And our mental maps are basically all based on faith. John Makoma writes that you can't really believe nothing. Life has so many parts that are completely mysterious and that we don't understand. So the way we approach this mystery and explain this mystery says everything about who we really are. This is how screenwriting works. In screenwriting, you make up characters and you define them by the truth that they believe, by the faith that they have. You don't have to believe in God and the Bible and Christianity, but what are you going to pick instead? I already made a video about the films of Jordan Peele that show us what happens when we pick something as our God that isn't really God. It basically leads us every single time to destruction, hell, and death. Now, what a lot of atheists say about the Bible is, how can you believe in the Bible? It has like so many unbelievable things in there. John Makoma gives the example that within the first pages of the Bible there is a snake who can speak. Now, one thing I had to understand about the Bible, that parts of the Bible are historical retelling. There is some poetry in there, there are songs in there, there are things that you have to take literally, and there are some things that you have to understand metaphorically. Asking if snakes can talk is really the wrong question that leads to nowhere. Because a story about a talking snake can be truthful. Effective lies hide in truth. They are not obvious. In the book, Comer makes us think about the worst thing we have done, like the thing you're most ashamed of. Chances are high you have done it by yourself or surrounded by bad influences. Bad things we have done were not in like public for everyone to see, but in private, in secret, when nobody could see. And this is where evil can catch you. Let's take it back to the Orson Welles story from the beginning. People were isolated. They had only the radio. They couldn't prove that the info they got was real, because in the radio, like, you heard news, you didn't hear fictional stories. They were isolated by the lies they were hearing, so they had no chance not to believe them. Now it is really different, because yes, we have the internet and we have social media that is there to connect information and people, but you're really all alone if you are online. You are in some kind of reality, but most of that is an illusion. It's not real life. Comer breaks down that the way to discover the lies you're believing and destroy them is by reverse engineering who you are. I think this is just genius, so this is how it goes. You have your identity, which is based on your behavior, which is based on the opinions you have, and your opinions are based on your thoughts, and your thoughts are based on what you pay attention to. So everything starts with what we focus on. This is the reason why I have such a big passion for media. YouTube videos and films may seem like they aren't really necessary for life, but they are a crucial part of the way we understand the world, because we pay attention to YouTube, we pay attention to films, to music, to news, to images, to words, and this is important. This really is important because it does change our lives. So we have to make sure that the media that is produced and the media that is consumed really makes the world a better place, because when it doesn't, it actively makes the world worse. So, how can you fill your mind with truth? I really think that the Bible is here to get you as close as possible to truth. Jesus said in the book of Matthew that He is not here to bring peace, He is here to give you a sword. Early on in our walks as born-again Christians, my fiancé and I made the commitment to read the Bible first thing in the morning every single day. And I have to be honest, first time I read the Bible, I didn't understand a lot of things. But what was absolutely fascinating was how the parables and stories and accounts actually made sense later on. There's no fictional or non-fictional story I ever heard that I didn't understand at first, and in the background started to make sense, and later on in life I realized what it actually meant. Only the biblical stories have this kind of power for me. And this is what makes the Bible a holy scripture for me, because it's different than anything any other book could be. Comer starts off one of the final chapters of the book with one of the most well-known quotes of all time. The heart wants what it wants. What you probably didn't know is that this quote was from Woody Allen in 1992. While saying this quote, he was defending himself because he was actually having an affair with his adopted stepdaughter. He was 56 and she was 21. We know that Woody Allen has made some of the most iconic American films, but everybody can agree that these things that he has done are absolutely horrible. Still, a lot of people use this exact quote to explain themselves when they do things that are being described as guilty pleasures. The real life story behind this quote is the perfect example of how following your heart without the right kind of moral guidance will lead you to destruction, evil, and death. Follow your heart, no matter what your heart desires, is actually absolutely terrible advice. Your thoughts and feelings can be evil because you are human and humans are sinful. Not being honest and realizing this is actually cruel and goes against human nature and actually prevents us, holds us back from becoming better human beings and living the great and healthy life you were meant to live. So finally, at the end of the book, John Comer gives specific advice that has really shaped the way I think about myself. It goes something like this. Imagine that you're going to die today. Everything you have right now is taken away from you, and all you are left with is who you really are. Imagine that this is who you will stay forever. Character ultimately becomes destiny, so be careful. You're becoming who you will be forever. Alright guys, this is it for today. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this video and found something valuable in here. I really recommend this book to you, and I hope that it will make some shifts and some positive life changes as it has done for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to have you back in the next video.